Am I good to go?
Yes.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to our session, which is titled Amplifying Community Health Worker Experience and Voice Within Your Organization via a Community Health Worker Affinity Group. I am representing two of our presenters, and we are coming from Trinity Health System. And I will quickly introduce myself. So once again, my name is Lauren Smith, and I work as the program consultant at our Trinity Health System office. I used to be a community health worker a long time ago. I will not say how long ago, but I loved being a community health worker. And in this role, I have the pleasure of working with our community health worker programs across the health system. And what's so special about it is I get to draw upon my own experience as a CHW when trying to support and standardize and grow our CHW work. And so now I will pass it over to my co-presenters today, and we'll start off with Liz. You're on mute.
All right, let's start over. My name is Liz Chala-Hidalgo, and I am a lead community health worker. I have been with Trinity Health Michigan for the past 21 years. I have been a lead for 13 years. So I have the pleasure of overseeing close to 30 community health workers within two counties, and it is amazing the work that they do. It is amazing to share my experiences with them and making their jobs easier as they go out into the field. So I am going to cross this over to Caltin.
Good morning, everybody. So glad that you could be here. So my name is Caltin. I am a community health worker at St. Alphonsus in Boise, Idaho, which is beneath Trinity Health. And I have been a community health worker here for about 3 years. And before that, now being a community health worker and knowing what we do, I think I can confidently say that I've been a community health worker most of my life. I worked at a women's and children's shelter. I've worked for the YMCA. I've been a nanny for over 25 years. And I think that all of that has kind of prepared me for my profession in the community health worker world. I am also the executive director for the Idaho Community Health Workers Association, which is a new position and super exciting. It's fun to take my passion for CHWs, which can get a little spicy sometimes because we all know that we don't get paid enough, and there's a lot of things that that CHWs need to be able to do the work that we love and to do it well and to help as many people as we can. So it's fun to be on the other side of it, to be kind of developing programs for my state's CHWs to help more people recognize the value of a community health worker and the work that they do. And I work with a team of about I believe 12 or 14 now community health workers in the state, and they're just the best people I've ever met. And I think we all kind of understand that. But this is just an exciting opportunity to work with NACHWA and to connect with all of you here today. And hopefully we've got a lot of good things to share. As Lauren's going to talk about, and I've heard this already this year at the conference, that nothing about us without us. I think that's the phrase. And that is just the focus for my little corner of the world, is that how lucky we are to be in a profession that wants to hear our input and our opinions and cares about who is actually doing the work on the ground. And enough to form policies and procedures and even legislature around what we have to say. So that's really the spirit of our program that we run and our presentation today. So I will shut up and let Lauren take over again. And we're so excited to have you guys today.
All right, thanks, Caltin. All right, so for our agenda for this session, we'll walk you through it. So obviously we just did our welcome. Shortly, we will move into an icebreaker, and then we'll go into the presentation, like the true meat of today's workshop. We'll go into an activity, because who doesn't like interacting with your peers and other CHWs when you normally wouldn't get a chance to do that on this type of level and platform. Then we'll open up to a Q&A where you can have the opportunity to ask us any questions or just make comments, and then we will wrap up. Now, just a fun fact to put it out there, the agenda you see here and the agenda that we're using for this section is actually what we use for, it's the same agenda that we use for our own CHW Affinity Group meetings. So it gives you a real tangible, a visual about how you can run a similar forum in your organization and how we go about doing that. All right. So now moving into our icebreaker, just to get us all a little bit chatty and comfortable with one another, I would like each of you to just take a minute or two, or longer if you need to reflect on a professional or personal highlight from this month, whatever that might be or mean to you. And once you've had a chance to think of what that highlight would be, we would love for you to share it in the chat. And if there are any brave souls out there, maybe we can have one or two come off mute and maybe share out loud. What do you all think of that? So take a couple of minutes, and then we'll love to see, are we able to have someone come off mute to share, Sloan?
They should be. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me put the ball as allowed to talk. Oop.
Thank you, Sloan. Sloan
You're
is our,
welcome. Sorry about that.
Sloan is our NACHWA helper, and we listen, it helps so much to know there's someone in the room to help with all the technical stuff.
Yes, if you need anything.
Oh, I love that some are coming in the chat already. Oh, I just lost it. Let's see. So someone said being able to service funds for tenants and public housing. Love that. Someone traveled 5 states in 28 hours. I would love to hear how you're able to do that. That's awesome. And then becoming a 2004-2026 NASHWA ambassador. Claps to that. That's awesome. Do we have anyone willing to come off mute? Do we have anyone? Patrice?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I come off mute?
You sure did. Would you like to share?
Oh, sure. I will share since I'm off of mute. And so mine is actually in the chat. We came across that of course, public housing in Richmond City Richmond, Virginia has still cinder blocks, and so they don't have central air or heat in them. And so we had some folks that got sick from heat exhaustion. So we was able through the health department to get some funding through a grant to be able to purchase window AC units for public housing residents.
That's awesome. The work that community health workers do day in, day out is so special and so hard. And the example you just shared speaks to that. So thank you for the work that you do and the dedication to your clients. Do we have room for maybe one more to share? Okay, I don't see anyone off mute. I would love to share. So I've attended a couple of NASHWA conferences now, a few of them, but this is my first time actually being a presenter. And so, I'm just being in the moment, being in the present. I'm happy to be here with you all and to share a little bit about our work. And although we are presenting on what we're doing, Caltin, Liz, and I, we had a conversation just the other day and just thinking like, how cool would it be if during this session we learn something from you all? Maybe there's something that your team of CHWs, your organization is doing to kind of support engagement and networking with the CHWs. So I'm open and looking forward to also hearing from you and learning from what you all are doing. So thank you for participating in this icebreaker. So the objectives for today's session really hovers around these 4 dot points. By the end of today's session, we hope that you are able to describe the importance and challenges that comes with engaging CHW voices and experiences, that you are able to learn a few new ways to create a safe space for CHWs on your team and within your organization, and that you identify opportunities to lift up CHW voices in your organization. And lastly, hopefully you walk away with some easy to replicate ways that you can take back to increase CHW satisfaction and experience through peer networking. So before we go into specifically talking about the way that we uplift CHW voices in our organization through our CHW Affinity Group, I want to just start off by sharing a little bit about Trinity Health. So Trinity Health System is one of the largest Catholic healthcare systems in the nation. In the green on the map right here, you can see how spread across the country we are and how spread across our CHW programs are. What I find interesting about this slide is that we have about 123 colleagues in the entire system. Only 150 of those are community health workers. And make no mistake, 150 is huge, and we are so excited to have that many CHWs. But when you think about us being a health system and primarily hospital-based, right? And that we have 123,000 colleagues, CHWs make up just a small proportion of that. And so being a community health worker myself, this was something that I knew was a need within our organization, and something that I was so dedicated or passionate about was connecting our community health workers and making sure that their voice was amplified and not drowned out in our organization. So here's a little bit about our specific CHW programs. So on this map, these are the states where we have current CHW programs. Like I said, we have just over 150 CHWs spread apart or spread across the country. And it really varies by the state and program. For instance, Liz, my co-presenter here, she comes from Michigan, and they have one of the largest programs, CHW programs and staffing in our health system. Typically, their teams range between 30 to 40 CHWs. And then Caltin talked about, I think 9, did you say, Caltin? I believe that's right. But then we have some programs where maybe there's just 1 or 2 CHWs. So it really just depends. The bulk of our CHWs, or most of our CHWs, are focused on identifying patient social needs and connecting them to community resources. They are considered a part of the clinical care team, meaning they are working alongside nurses, providers, care managers, social workers, health coaches, you name it. And they also attend roundings, huddles, and case reviews with those care teams. As a health system, we really try to focus in on our uninsured patient populations, those with Medicaid, those that are a part of our accountable care organization populations, specifically those with Medicare and Medicaid. And the why is because these individuals seem to frequent the emergency department quite a bit, and they're also readmitted in the hospital quite a bit. Just recently, we've combined two of our programs within Trinity Health, our National Diabetes Prevention Program and our Community Health Worker programs, where some CHWs are cross-trained as a lifestyle coach, and they deliver the diabetes program, but then they also do their normal CHW work, identifying social needs and resolving some of those barriers. So as I said, just giving the context of how small and relative to like how many CHW or colleagues we have at Trinity Health and how large our organization is, CHWs really make up just a small bit of that. And what I noticed when I joined in 2019 was that peer networking for CHWs was a missing core element. And CHWs need that support. They need to know that they can talk to someone who's been in their shoes, who understands the work that they do, that understands the challenges and all of that, right? And so, advance. Historically, what's happened in our organization is that our CHWs did not have a way to learn from other CHWs that might be in a different state. So it's great if you worked on a team where you had a lot of colleagues, but then what about those states or programs where they only had one CHW, and that CHW often felt alone and isolated? So we wanted to find a new way to support CHWs, especially for those who are new to the work, new to a health system, or working in smaller teams. So I went on a mission in 2021 where I said, as the program consultant, as someone who's been a CHW, I want to make sure that there is a group of CHWs from wherever they are to come together. This is a space just for them. So we launched in late 2021, and these are the goals that we started off with, and still today, this guides our work and our mission. So goal number one, nothing about us without us. You know, we use that statement a lot because it's so important to remember that the CHWs are the ones actually doing this work and going to be impacted by this work. So they need to be a part of the discussion. They need to be a part of the decisions. So the CHW Affinity Group is dedicated by them. And I also made it a point by saying it will be led by CHWs. Goal number two is that this should be a safe space. So from the onset, from the get-go, I said no leadership, no managers, and no supervisors are allowed, because I wanted this to be a space where CHWs can come, be themselves, feel free to share whatever troubles they're having, any successes that they're having, and be honest and not feel like they have to be concerned about what they say and fear of being reprimanded, you know, by their manager or someone. No, this was just going to be an easy, safe space for them. Goal number three was that we use this space not only for networking, but that we're also learning from one another, learning from maybe trainers or outside organizations coming in, so that our CHWs are constantly growing and professionally. And then the last goal is to remember to have fun, right? So within our monthly meetings, how can we make it fun and add some lightheartedness? Because so much of what the CHWs do can be exhausting. As great as the work is, you know, like it's hard work. It's not easy work. And sometimes the rewards and the results take a long time. So you have to find ways to add joy. So someone called me a founder of this group. I never used that word, but I guess I'll just say that when we first launched, me as a founder, I went out and found someone within our organization who also had experience as a CHW and could help form this group, you know? So make it help me bring it into action, because at that point it was just an idea. So I found a local director at one of our hospitals in Illinois. She had spent a long time working as a CHW, leading CHW teams. So it was right up her alley. And we were considered the direct sponsors. My vice president of my department, she gave me the green light to go ahead and form this group, this forum. She even dedicated some resources, meaning, for instance, if I wanted to bring in a trainer to speak about a specific topic that we didn't have in-house, she set aside some financial resources where I could contract with someone or purchase service from another organization or consultant to come in and do that training. And as I mentioned earlier, we really wanted this to be CHW led. So I went on a hunt and I put out an application out there explaining the goal of the CHW Affinity Group, and that we were really looking for CHWs to come on as co-leads and help develop and lead this forum. And that was important because they're the ones actually in the role. And it was important for the CHWs to have a say in how this affinity group should go. Initially, we asked for the CHWs to commit to at least 6 months to serve as a co-lead, and that they must have supervisor support. We definitely didn't want to ask CHWs to take on this responsibility if their supervisor was unaware and they didn't have the time or capacity to commit to it. In the beginning, we started planning 1 or 2 months before our kickoff meeting. As a co-lead, we met every 2 weeks to kind of think about our ideas, our goals, and how could we get feedback from other CHWs about how to make this meeting in this group beneficial to them. We eventually scheduled monthly meetings. We debated whether we should meet monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly, but we settled on monthly because we wanted to be regular, we wanted to be consistent, and that we can really boost up the CHW's experience. If we met any further than that, I'm not sure how much participation and engagement we would have. With the support of our executive sponsor, that was my vice president, we made participation in this monthly group meeting a requirement for every CHW, but obviously, as you all know, sometimes conflicts happen, or maybe you got a patient or a client come in and you got to put the fire out. And so we were respectful of that. We were respectful of their schedules and any concerns or conflicts that came up. The last thing we did in kind of developing the meetings and the agendas is that we brainstormed different ways to learn and include other CHWs and CHWs organizations outside of Trinity Health. So here are a few examples. In the beginning of our meetings, we would spotlight different CHW teams, each CHW on their team, how long they were CHWs, and maybe the work or patient populations that they were typically working with. We also did patient case studies where we had real case studies, and we would get feedback from the other CHWs on maybe different resources or ways that they would have went about handling that particular case. We also had NASHWA representatives come in to speak about the organizations and how CHWs can get involved with NASHWA. We had the APHA, the American Public Health Association CHW section leader, come in and talk about the CHW section and how CHWs can get involved with that. And then we also connected with some local CHW associations and had them come present about their organization to the CHWs. And then on the right-hand side is an example of the agenda that we put together for our affinity meetings. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we wanted to invite CHWs to participate as co-leads. We originally set up a 6-month time frame. That way they can come on, help develop the monthly meetings. they could grow their leadership and group facilitation skills. But then we were respectful of their time. Once they've completed that 6-month period, then they can go back to their normal work. And then they did remain on maybe a month or two after that so that they could help mentor and onboard the new co-lead that was coming on. Just recently, we switched where Liz and Caltin have remained on. I forget how long Liz has been a co-lead, but it's been over a year, I think, just because they are so dynamic, and the way that they've taken my idea to the next level, it was just so clear to me that they were the true leaders of this group and needed to stay on a bit longer than we had planned. But initially, when I put out the call for a co-lead, I made it a very simple application, just asking them some simple questions like, why would you like to serve as a co-lead? What personal qualities can you bring to this group? And what ideas do you have for this group? And with that being said, I will hand it over to Liz.
Which I will talk about coming on as a CHW, my perspective. So as a lead, when I joined the group back in 2021, it was a unique experience because at that time, like Lauren said, we didn't have a safe space for all the CHWs to be honest, to connect, to, you know, just share ideas. And we didn't have something like this is such a grand, style where people are not siloed. So I was excited because we as CHWs, we were finally going to have a space where we could network and discuss all things that pertains to our line of work. So I became a co-chair. I believe it was 6 months after I had started attending the meetings or a year after. And honestly, it has been so exciting because I am so passionate about the work that I do. Um, and I really care about my CHWs, all CHWs, you know, especially when it concerns, physically, mentally, spiritually, what their concerns are, because I have done this for 21 years. So it has touched me in all those aspects. So I want to share those things with them. Um, so it was an opportunity really that was given to me to help CHWs learn new things and connect with each other. Next slide. So how have we been doing? We've been doing really good. Thank you. So since we have started, we have tried, like Lauren said, different strategies in how to engage, our CHWs. At first, we did a lot of presentations, but a lot of talking to them. We've tried games, we've done presenters, we've done surveys, now we're doing calendars in advance. Next slide. And so one of the things that we have changed that has engaged them more is instead of bringing the information to them by us speaking all the time, which gave little room for them to really speak a lot, we have one of the things that has really worked is the case studies. Those are phenomenal. We have asked the CHWs to send us a case studies that, or a situation that has happened to them. We pick one of those, maybe one or two a month, and we present it to the whole group. And by that case studies, we ask them a lot of questions. Have you experienced this situation? What would you do in this situation? And do you have any tips for other CHWs? And the amount of response that we have gotten from all the CHWs across, it's amazing. And, every month you get these same CHWs, and it's like they are feeling really comfortable with each other, and they network with each other outside of these meetings, which I think it's amazing. So yeah, next slide, please. So in my opinion, compared to 2021 to present, there have been some changes. We keep things that work, and we're continually seeking new strategies to incorporate based on what the CHW's voice that they need and that they want. We continue to meet every month, like Lauren said, with different presentations that bring great learning and provoke beneficial conversation, like what you're experiencing today in our meeting template. And one of the things that we also do is we ask our own CHWs to be presenters in our monthly meeting. If they have an area of expertise or skill set that they would like to share those skills, then they are more than welcome to present on a monthly basis. So that's another good idea that we have stuck with, and the CHWs really enjoy that. So I'm going to hand it off to Caltin.
Thanks, gals. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll just start with my experience, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail about what we've been doing since Liz and I started. So, you know what? First, what can we do this? Can you put in the chat real fast what your role is, whether you're a CHW or an ally or a supervisor of CHWs? What is your role? I just want to get a good feel for who's in the room with us. Thank you, everyone, for doing that. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes here. I just want to see what the mix is like. Okay. That Lauren's AI throws me off. I'm like, is that a real person or is the AI just being cheeky and like telling me what it thinks I want to hear? Okay, well, it looks like we've got a good mix in here, so I love this. Okay, so this will be good for everyone to hear. So when I started as a CHW, you know, there's that learning curve, right? And you know, quite honestly, training is not where it needs to be. So I kind of felt like I went through and listened to some phone calls, and then they're like, "Here you go, have fun." And I panicked for quite a while, maybe 6 months to a year. I was like, I don't know what I hope I'm doing the right thing. I hope I'm not hurting anyone, you know. And then it kind of all clicks and you kind of figure out how your process and how to connect with your patients and the joy that that brings and the not so joyful experiences that we have when we lose a patient to follow up or death or whatever it is. It just kind of clicks at some point where you're like, okay, this is just who I am. This is my personality. I just connect with people and help them connect with the right resources in their life. And once that happened, I really felt the pull and the need to take it a little bit further, like to increase my training and to connect with other CHWs and to ask questions and to take on more roles. Like within my team, what that looked like was I started doing the hotline calendar because we have a hotline that we all take turns answering. And that was what I took on, but even that wasn't enough. So I remember getting an email about the affinity group and thinking that that sounded really cool. Like I hadn't attended a meeting yet, but I thought that I had enough experience and wherewithal to maybe be able to contribute to that. And I sent in my application, and sorry, Lauren, I didn't hear anything for a long time. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think I might have reached out and said, hey, are you guys still, you know, still looking for co-leads? And Lauren responded immediately and said that You know, something had happened, plans had changed, so now they were looking for a co-lead, and I started, and I could tell right from the beginning that this was something that was really going to help. It was going to help people like me who wanted more information, and maybe didn't really feel comfortable getting it in my own team, because my team, we all kind of started at the same time, so we were all kind of in the same boat. And when I finally got the go-ahead to be a co-lead, you know, this is just who I am. I was raised with very creative parents. We were dirt poor. That's what it was. We were dirt poor. And so my mom and dad had to come up with really exciting crafts and do-it-yourself things so that we didn't feel like we were poor. I really didn't notice it until I was probably in junior high or high school. So I just came with my own little briefcase of ideas, and you know, there's always that part of me that doesn't want to step on any toes. But I wanted to show that I was worthy of this role that they've given me, and that I wanted to contribute and make it better. And it just, almost every time I brought something up, everyone was so supportive and said, yes, that's a great idea. Let's do that, blah, blah, blah. So as a CHW, it's really allowed me to blossom and feel like I'm helping not only my patients, but my fellow coworkers, my fellow CHWs. And so some of the things that I brought to the table were things that I love anyway. So I'm a book nerd. I love books. And I'm like, let's do a book club. This will be so awesome. And every time I do anything, I'm like, hey, how can we work this into a book club? And some of my friends are really into that. And some of them are like, dude, shut up. Nobody reads like you do. So we tried it. And here's the thing about this program and any program that you want to do for CHWs, you have to be flexible. You have to know that some subjects are going to be more interesting than others. Some things that you try are going to take off like wildfire, and they're going to love it, and they're going to come back week after week or month after month, or however often you have your meetings. And some are just going to be like, nah, that's dumb, and we're not coming back. So, you know, you have to be willing to take the good with the bad. And we've mentioned, we do surveys at the end of our meetings. And we ask questions like, how did the meeting go? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What would you like to learn about? And I gotta say, I took it personal when a couple of people, the first book club that we did, were like, what didn't you like, book club? It was like, well, shoot. And even Lauren's like, I'm not a reader, but I think it's fun to hear about the books. So, you know, maybe it's something that we'll take up in the future, but really what it comes down to is that sometimes these subject matters are just so interesting, and CHWs are so passionate about learning about them that we run out of time. And we have all these great ideas that we want to do within our meeting. And then we have to say, you know what? People are really engaging, which can be hard, right? When you're running a meeting and there's no participation, sometimes it's real tough. It's like pulling teeth, and maybe just people aren't in the mood. And another thing you have to keep in your mind is that some people just aren't the kind of people that are kind of come off mute. They don't want to hear their own voice. They don't want to put things in the chat. They're just there to observe, and that's okay. But overall, being flexible and knowing that ideas come and go. Some things work, some things don't. But trying is the main thing. You try things to connect with your CHWs and get their creativity motors running. So one thing that I love that we've done is our monthly topics for the year. You can see our monthly topics here. And what we did is we went through and took all of those surveys that we did do at the end of our meetings. And then I had just finished an advanced CHW course at my local university. So I had a whole list of topics that CHWs should know about. And we compiled a list for the year so that we can tell everyone every month, here, this is what our topic is. So if you have something to contribute to that, if you have a specific, just lost the word, tactic that works with your patients, or you've experienced something that really just is not useful or helpful, maybe that you learned in your training. We want to focus on what the CHWs want to hear about. So that's where this list comes from. And as you can see, our January and February, we decided to split self-care into 2 months because this is something that I'm personally super passionate about. And I don't know if it comes with age, but at a certain age, I decided, you know what? There's a reason why on like every time you take a flight, right? The stewardess stewardess, that is aging me. The flight attendant will give you the spiel, right? And they say if the oxygen masks come down, put yours on first and then help everyone around you. And that's so that you're still around to help those around you. Because if you can't breathe and you pass out, then you've taken away something from everyone else, right? So we all hear about self-care. We all go to those trainings. We check off the box and, you know, write in your journal, take a nap, go for a walk, things like that. But I want it to be more than a task. I want it to be part of a CHW's lifestyle, because then we can turn around and help other people. It's kind of that thing, like we're trying to help our patients become more self-sufficient and take care of themselves. But if we're not taking care of ourselves, how do we tell them to do that? And they know, right? We create intimate relationships with our patients, so they know when we're BSing them. They know if, you know, we haven't been getting sleep because we haven't been prioritizing it. So we've kind of made that a theme throughout the year. So not only January and February, but every month we have a self-care strategy that we share, and it's usually from a CHW in our group. And you can go to the next slide. I just have a couple of examples of what we have shared this year. So one of them was vision boards. And the idea behind a vision board is not just your typical write down your New Year's resolutions. In fact, I encourage people to do their vision boards in February or March or April, to where there's not that weird start of the new year that some old white guy decided was our calendar. And you can do it whenever you want to, but to have it somewhere where you can see it every day, that's actually my vision board, and I have it in my living room. It matches my decor. So I see it every day and I'm reminded of things that maybe I shouldn't have put on there because I don't care about keeping up with them, or things that I can say, oh my gosh, look at all those things that I've accomplished. And in turn, when I hop on a phone with a patient, I'm feeling very confident and I'm feeling very much like I can help them. I can take their hand and walk them through a goal that we've set and reach that goal because I know what it feels like on the other side. Another one we had was junk journaling that one of our CHWs presented. And it's something that really helps her take her mind off of things. Sorry, my light turns off. I've got to wave at it to turn it on. And I think that a lot of CHWs connected with that. Another one we've had is a CHW had an emergency with her dog, and it required a vet visit, and we all know that those are not cheap. So she started a coloring page of, you know, $10, $5, like a savings jar. And these are things that you might not think about when you're thinking about CHWs. But this is part of taking care of ourselves and part of taking care of our patients. Can we go back to the previous slide for a second? So I wanted to talk a little bit more on flexibility because in July and August, you'll see that our topics, well, actually June and July, our topics are community prejudices, cultural competency, and then CHW safety and home visits. So when we started to talk about June and our cultural competency awareness, it just felt like it deserved more attention than we could fit into our hour. And let's be honest, like our hour turns into 20, 30 minutes that we can actually talk about our subject matter when we have our welcome and our icebreaker and our announcements and our survey and stuff. So we decided to split that into 2 months. So the first month we talked about all the things that we talk about with cultural competency, but we really wanted to dig deeper. I'm sorry, it is July and August because we are not to our second half yet. That happens next week. So our first half, we decided to touch on, all the things we talk about at all of our cultural competency trainings, and the fact that sometimes it just feels like it's something we got to do because our job requires it, but it's so much more than that. Especially as CHWs, we work with people every day who experience prejudice and racism and all of these negative things on a daily basis. And it's our job to make connections with them and create trust with them. And how can we do that if our experience with another culture or another language or food or any of that consists of a 1-hour training we take once a year? That's not enough, right? So we split it into 2 months, and coming up next week, we're going to have someone come and talk to us about ways that we can take the reins and take our cultural awareness and sensitivity into our own hands and train ourselves and practice and learn and educate ourselves throughout the year, right? Because again, as CHWs, especially if we're not perpetually learning, we're doing harm to our patients, right? So that just is another thing that we do with flexibility. Like, change can be hard, but if you embrace it, change can be the catalyst to change for the good. So I wanted to point that out. So we usually do a survey at the end of our meetings. Today I'm going to, if you want to go to the 2 slides forward, we're going to do a little survey, but I'll be honest and say that I'm not super familiar with Zoom. So does everybody, we're just going to assume everyone knows how to do the whiteboard. I'm going to request to share, Lauren. See if that'll work. Okay. Well, we'll see if that works. I'm going to go to the chat and see if I have missed anything.
Sloan, should I stop sharing if she's trying to share the whiteboard?
Great question.
You know what? Let's not mess with technology. We can do this with microphones and chat.
I get that you can have more than one, but I don't know.
I think it said it was multiple was on, but it doesn't want to let me use the whiteboard still. So no worries. We're good.
Okay.
Okay. So what I want to ask is, so normally we would ask questions like, what did you like about today's meeting? What did you not like? What do you want to hear about? So let me ask, because we've got CHWs, we've got CHW supervisors in the room. Why don't you tell me if you could have 3 things, whether we're changing something, improving something, getting rid of something. Let's just assume we're all going to say better pay for CHWs because that's across the board. We need that. But give me 3 things that you would love to give your CHWs, you would love your supervisors to give to you. What is it that you need as a CHW or a CHW supporter? And please put it in the chat or come off of mute and just shout it at us. And let's have a little bit of a discussion. I want this workshop to be helpful for you and helpful for us because we're still running this program, and also selfishly helpful for me. I'm a new executive director and sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know how to bring about the change that I want to see for the CHW. So let's just share a little bit now. Who's going to be the first brave soul to give me some answers?
Plus, we love to hear your voices.
Yes. And I'll sit through the silence. We can do that too. Because sometimes we just need a little bit to think. All right, Estella, more time for training and self-care for the CHW at the clinics. Yeah, training is crazy, right? You know, I know that most jobs you don't get everything you need in your training, but maybe 80% of what you need to do for your job you could expect, and then 20% on the job training. I think that you're right, and I think that a big part of that is going to be NACHWA and all of the state associations kind of helping to come up with those scopes of practice and the ideas of what we need as CHWs to train us to be good at our job. Specialty training. Yes. Estella, do you want to expand on that a little bit? Like, do you have any specialties in mind that you're thinking of?
I can actually, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So I work for a health coalition that we, our members are HQHCs from, there's 7 different ones. And the issue that has come up is I actually started a CHW peer support group, and it was under a First 5 grant that we received, but we luckily the coalition has decided to continue it. And the biggest issues that come up is trying to address, like, for instance, what do you do when a family comes in with a special needs child and doesn't know how to go through the process of possibly getting an IEP, or how do you approach a family that might have a child in the spectrum, you know, those kind of things. They don't know how to approach it. They don't know how to go through the process. And I know it's very difficult, and there's a lot of emotions involved with the family. So I think that kind of like specialty, like what to do in those cases. So that's just an you know, a small example, because there's so many other ones.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that for sure. I think at St. Alphonsus, we're pretty fortunate that we have a group. It's a different, sorry, my light is we have a different department that they kind of, long story short, they have certain payers that they work with, but they have pharmacists and social workers and care managers and things like that, and we have access to them. So a lot of times when we run into something like that, we'll reach out to a social worker or a nurse manager or a care manager and utilize them and say to our patient, listen, you not only have me, but you have a whole care team available to you, and I can reach out to them. Even if it's on our own time, like reaching out, if I have a question about a patient, I can reach out to the social worker and say, hey, look, how would I handle this? Yeah. Which makes it so much more important to have that networking right outside of our CHW program, and find nurses and find care managers that are willing to help us, because I guarantee once they figure out who we are and what we do, they're going to want us on their side as well. So it's a two-way street. But I definitely appreciate that specialty training. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Let's see, Lauren, you said, I hear from our CHWs and clinics, there are so many distractions and interruptions, among other things. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think I misread what Estella was saying, but can I give a different perspective that I didn't mention? So one thing that I've noticed in terms of thinking about what our CHWs need and how we can better support them, that was one goal of this monthly affinity group too. It was to be able to speak directly to CHWs and hear from them. What do they need? What do they want? In all things. So that could be training, that could be in self-support. It could be matters related to their own leadership, right? Like, imagine if you're a CHW and you aren't feeling supported, or you're having issues with your manager or supervisor. For some CHWs, they might feel intimidated or not comfortable speaking on those issues, but in this space, they have that opportunity. And so what I've done is, not that I single out any CHW or any particular hospital that those CHWs are at, what I will do is I will go back to our leadership teams as a CHW representative, right? Like I consider myself a voice for CHWs when within our organization when they can't be a voice for themselves. And so what I do is I go to the leadership and my leadership and say, hey, I've noticed and I'm hearing that CHWs are struggling with this, A, B, and C, right? Not giving enough specifics where that person can be identified, but it's the gist so that we can say as an organization or as a management team, here's where we're struggling. This is where our CHWs are having problems and we need to do something. And what can we do? So I just want to throw that in there. So this forum, it serves multiple reasons. And I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Lauren. And that reminds me of something I wanted to touch on is why this group is so important to me is that we typically and generally the best CHWs have lived experience, right? Because that helps us increase our trust with our community members. And I want to point out that sometimes that lived experience is not past experience, it's current experience. And, you know, I have struggled with that. I know what it's like to be homeless. I know what it's like to not know where your meal is going to come from or gas or food to feed your pets. And unfortunately, I know what it's like not to be able to pay for housing. And I know how to navigate, I knew how to navigate those emergency funds for COVID rental assistance because I was in that boat. So it's a catch-22 because that helps us to be more relatable to our patients, but it also filled me with so much guilt that I was taking away from resources for my patients because I was a patient as well. And I don't think that my supervisors understood that. I think that they champion having lived experience, but maybe don't understand that the lived experience is current experience. So learning that there's a group out there that's there for CHWs and that I could feel comfortable sharing that information was huge. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Lauren. I want to get back to the chat here. Okay, someone said something about a fashion show. That sounds amazing. Let me back up a little bit. Does someone want to come off mute and tell me about the fashion show? That could have been a while ago. Okay, well, come off mute if you can. Olivia said she'd love to give her CHWs more confidence in their role. And she imagines that training, self-care, and peer networking would help with that 100%. I love that your mind goes there because those are three things that really would increase confidence with CHWs. And encouraging them to share their good news stories, their patient stories that really helped them to see the process from start to finish, where you get to graduate someone and they've taken the reins. Lift that up. And
Caltin,
more.
I see a hand up.
Oh, hand up. I don't see hands.
Yeah, it's okay. It's Mike. My name is Michael.
Hi, Mike.
And unfortunately, I don't have a story about the fashion show for you. But I wanted to say that I work for Nachua. I'm the technology project manager here. I had the opportunity in a previous job with Aetna CVS to help build and develop their CHW program for Aetna Medicaid. And I wished we had thought of this idea of an affinity group at the time that I was doing that, because there was a handful in this state, 7 in this state, you know, and 1 in this state, you know, and it would have just been so much better for them. So I thank you and praise you for this, because this is a really great concept. I also wanted to add a bit of a plug for my own work here at Nachua. which is that I was the one who helped work, develop, and bring forward the CHW connector that we've been talking about all day. And one of the things that is there, it's not specialty training, but it is the entire community's portion of CHW connector is there to be topic groups driven by CHWs. So if you go into it and you see, housing, and you can talk to other CHWs in an informal way to learn about navigating this, get advice, get resources, do those sorts of things. So it's one of another way on a bigger sense to get to that affinity group, particularly on a particular topic, I think, or at least I hope. And nothing at all replaces in-person human interactions for this sort of thing. But if you want to be able to find out more about something, reach out to somebody who may not live in the same state, but may have just the expertise you're looking for, that is one of the big hopes that I have for this platform. So my little plug for CHW Connector, and thank you for what you all do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Michael. I learned about the CHW connector yesterday and I was like jumping out of my skin. I was like, what? Like we have this thing. This is so great. I'm going to be plugging it from now until the end of time. I've already signed up to have Idaho's CHW group on there. To me, that is exactly what CHWs needed on a national scale. So I love that so much. I want to leave some time for Q&A. If anybody has any questions, now is the time. We've got a few minutes left. And then what's our next slide? Oh, it's just a recap of what we've meant to learn today. So does anybody have any questions for us? And if Lauren and Liz, if you can put your emails in the chat. I know that they're in the slideshow, but I want people to be able to reach out and ask any questions that they might come up with later, or if they would like to come and observe our group. You're welcome to do that. I would say we have our meetings on Mondays at noon Mountain, 2 p.m. Eastern, and they're an hour long. If you're going to come to one, this Monday is going to be the one, because we have an amazing speaker, and I'm super passionate about perpetually learning about cultural awareness and sensitivity, especially in an election year. So any questions? I'll be quiet. Any questions? I really appreciate you guys being here, and all the information that you've shared with us. I hope that you've gotten something out of today to be able to offer to your CHWs or to take to your supervisors. And please, as CHWs, don't be afraid to advocate for yourselves. We do it for our patients all day, every day. But we need to put that oxygen mask on first. And our supervisors and our allies and our supporters, they need to welcome your voice, because your voice matters. So you can go to the next slide. We're recapping what we've learned today. We just try again. If you have passion to improve CHW's lives, work lives, and home lives and personal lives, just try something. If you need help, reach out to any one of us. I'm happy to help start an affinity group for you guys. I'm sure all of us would be happy to give tips. Remember that everybody learns in different ways. So trying all the ways is how you're going to reach the most people. And change is good. So I want to thank everybody for joining. We've got a few minutes left. So maybe take some more time to figure out what workshop you want to join next. And again, this is our information, Liz, Caltin, and Lauren. We love doing this group every month. I love working with these ladies. And they definitely have helped my education along the way, and helped me continue to grow. So I want to thank them and our interpreter and Sloan for helping us out today. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And, I hope you have great education to take back with you. Enjoy yourselves for the rest of the afternoon or in your next session.
Thank you to our panelists and our presenter. This was interesting just to listen to. I'm not a CHW, but I feel like I learned a lot, which is always a good thing. So
Awesome. Thanks, Sloan.
thank you.
Thanks, Mom, for your help.
You.
Absolutely.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.